There are men who are staying home and allowing their wives to go out and work. And they're called stay-home dads or something like that. But they're staying home. I have with me one of those guys, Jeremy Adam Smith. He's a scholar, author, and blogger whose work focuses on families and community life. He blogs about parenting at Daddy Dowlett, I believe that is, Daddy Dowlett. I wanted him to come on and talk to us about men who, for whatever reason, decided to stay home and allow their wives or live-in girlfriends to go out and work. Jeremy, good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Is this a good idea for fathers, husbands, fathers to stay home and send their wives off to work? Is that a good idea?
Well, whether it's a good idea or not, it has to happen for many of today's families because two things have happened in the past 50 years. One, that the economy has become increasingly unstable. In my grandfather's day, my grandfather had the same job for 40 years. He was driving a crane in the quarry. That's what he did every single day, sometimes up to 6 days a week, sometimes up to 12 hours a day, and he could count on that job. That is just no longer true. People are forced to change jobs, sometimes to keep their careers moving, sometimes because they get laid off.
But let me just restate the question. Mm-hmm. Is it a good idea for men to stay home and send their wives off to work? Is that a good idea? I understand that there's situations where some men cannot find a job in today's America, but is that a good idea for the man to stay home?
Well, I think what I'm saying is that for many families, it's a practical decision. And it's not that the man is sending his wife to work, it's that she wants to go to work and she can work. If you, for whatever reason, need somebody to stay home and take care of the kid, if you can't afford childcare or the child has some special need, or if that's just what you want, if that's just what your values say, that one parent needs to, that a child should be taken care of by the parents. For many families, there's no reason why that parent cannot be the father.
Okay, let me restate the question, and then I'll move on because for some reason you won't answer it. Let's say that the husband is working and the wife is working. They decide that they're going to have kids, they're going to have children. Is it a good idea for the woman to say, hey, we now have children or have a child, I'm going to go to work and you're going to quit your job and stay home? Is that a good idea?
Yes. I mean, it's not a good idea for all families, certainly, but I think that for many, many families, more and more families, yes, absolutely, that is a good idea.
I read that you are married and you have children, right?
Yes, that's right.
How many kids do you have?
I just have one.
And how long have you been married?
Well, my wife and I have been together now for almost 20 years. We've probably been married for about 6.
And at some point, you decided to stay home and let your wife go to work. Who made that decision? Whose idea was it? Your wife or yours?
Let's see. Whose decision was it? I think that my wife stayed home with him for the first year and took care of him. We actually thought she was going to be going back to work after 6 months, but we realized at a certain point that she wasn't ready and that he wasn't ready. And so she stayed home with him for a year. And then I reached a point in my career and the job that I had at the time where I realized it was time to move on. And I said, honey, let's try you going back to work. And I would like to take the time to learn how to be a parent and how to take care of my son. And that's what happened. She went back to work and I stayed home with him for a year.
And so it was your idea to send her off to work and you stay home with the child?
Yeah, I guess it was.
Because you didn't know how to be a parent. You wanted to learn how to be a parent. You wanted to learn how to be a mother?
Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. I mean, no, I didn't think of it that way. I thought of it as me wanting to learn how to be a father.
And so instead you learned how to be a mother, right?
Well, I honestly don't understand the question because, of course, I'm not a mother. I am a father.
Are the roles or responsibility of the fathers and mothers different? Do they have different roles?
Well, I would say yes. I think that a lot of the differences in those roles are based in differences in how we have children. A child for a biological mother, one who doesn't adopt, the child comes from her body, and for a long time after the child is born, the child is very dependent on her body for nourishment and comfort and other things. And I really see it as being the father's role to be a bridge between the mother's body and the rest of the world to help the child learn to go out into the world and to be more independent.
But how is he going to do that if he stays home and send the mother out? He's acting like a woman, which is the weaker vessel of the family. The father is the one that set that type of example when he goes out and provide for his family. The kids take on that identity. But if the father staying home acting like a woman, the child will be confused.
Well, first of all, I don't agree at all that women are the weaker sex. Childbirth is enormously difficult and trying, and for a long time it put a mother's life at risk to have a child. You think that
men are weaker than women?
Do I think that men are weaker than women? No, I don't. I don't think that at all.
But you just said you disagree that the women are the weaker sex.
No, I didn't. I don't understand the question.
I said that when a man stays home and sends his wife out to work, he is not setting that example for the children of how to go out and conquer. Because the woman is the weaker sex. Now the man is switching roles. He's going to become the weaker sex, and that's not a good example for the children.
I think as a stay-at-home father, you can show enormous strength. And I can provide some examples of that.
Yeah, give me an example.
Well, there's a couple are profiled in my book, and their child was born with profound disabilities, life-threatening disabilities, and she made more money. She was a lot more career-oriented, and somebody needed to stay home and take care of this child after he was born. And I think anybody who is taking care of a child with profound disabilities knows that that is a test. That's a test of one's spirit, one's soul, and he faced those tests, and he showed enormous strength in nursing his child through these life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. And when I interviewed them, that boy was grown. He was 7 years old at the time. He was in public school. He was still visibly disabled. His challenges were not over. He really still required a lot of ongoing help and advocacy and care. And his father was the one giving him that care. And he was doing what any parent would do. That is true. It's what any mother would do. But that doesn't, in my eyes anyway, make it any less heroic and make him any less strong.
Don't you see it? Do you see it as selfishness when these women are going out to work and they have children, whether they're disabled or not? There's like an envy or jealousy. They think that men have a better life than they do, and that's why they want to go out and work. Do you see that as selfishness for them to sacrifice their children for their ego needs?
I don't think there's anything selfish about going to work every day and doing what you have to do to support your family.
Even when you have children?
Especially when you have children.
So you don't think it's selfishness for the woman to go out and work when she has children, whereas the father can do it?
No, I don't.
Jeremy, let me ask this. You said that some men are not emotional. They have to work at it really hard. Men are not naturally emotional. Emotional men is an unnatural, natural way of being. And so how are these guys forcing themselves to become emotional? What are they doing to become emotional?
I don't agree that men aren't emotional. I think sometimes men have problems reading other people's emotions, and I think sometimes they have problems communicating their emotions. And oftentimes they communicate them badly through acts of aggression. They may be feeling something else. They may be feeling guilt. They may be feeling anxiety. But instead of talking about it with their partners, they lash out. And that's kind of a problem. And changing that, I don't think is a matter of nature. I really think it's a matter of skills and effort and will on the man's part. And and that's true in a marriage. It's what can developing those skills can keep your marriage healthy and strong. And I also think it's true in your relationship with your children, whether you're staying home as a father or if you're going to work every day, as the gentleman who called in before was describing. No matter what, you got to develop those skills because those are the skills that are going to keep your family going and keep them happy.
I agree with you that there are some emotional men out there, but the emotion of a man is that of a woman. Most men who are emotional became that way because they, resented their situations at home with their mothers while growing up. And you become like what you resent. You take on the identity of the person that you hate. So a lot of men are emotional, but it's not normal. It's not natural.
And you think mothers are to blame for that situation? You don't think those men are responsible for their own selves?
Men are, and I'll respond to that. Men are compassionate. Real men are compassionate. Yeah. And they have love. And that's not based on emotion. It's based on what is right. And yes, I do blame the mothers for that and grandmothers for traumatizing their boys and girls in that manner. Now,
I don't agree with that.
Now, when they become adults,
I'll tell you my story.
Let me finish this. Let me make this point.
About my relationship
I know, but let me make this point. When they become adults, hold on a minute.
We can always scapegoat our parents.
Jeremy, hold on.
Messing us up.
Let me finish this point.
But
when they become Jeremy,
you got to become a grown-up.
Jeremy, can you hear me?
You got to become an adult.
Hold on, man. When they become adults, they have a responsibility to overcome that. Now, you want to tell me the story about how you became like your mother.
How I became like my mother. Oh, boy. Now you're really treading dangerous ground.
How did you become like your mother?
I didn't become like my mother. I forgave her.
You forgave her?
I grew up.
You forgave her for what?
I forgave her for being a human being. And
what did she do that you had to forgive her for?
Oh, I'm not going to talk about that on the radio. That's nobody's business. But I think that a lot of listeners can relate to what I'm saying. That you were raised by your parents. Your parents are flawed. You are angry at them. A lot of people are. You might have some of that yourself. And then at a certain point, you got to grow up.
Well, we're saying the same thing.
Especially when you have your own children, you got to take responsibility for those feelings.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like your mother traumatized you. You grew up and realized that she was wrong, so you forgave her for it.
She didn't traumatize me. My mother was a good mother, and she raised me well.
So if she was good, why did you have to forgive her if she was good?
Well, talk about your relationship with your own parents. Did you have to forgive your parents for something?
Answer that question for me. If your mother was good, why did you have to forgive her?
Because she was human, and we are all human, and we all have flaws. And we all have to learn how to forgive those flaws in other people when we find them.
And so a lot of men listening to what you're saying and writing about, are they believing this?
Do a lot of men believe it? Well, in bookstores, at readings, or on talk shows like this, or just when I meet people on the street and they've read my book, definitely it resonates with their experience. They say, yeah, I saw a lot of myself in there. And mostly they're actually talking about the problems that I identify. The conflicts that can occur in a marriage where you're both working, or if he's staying home and she's going to work, those are not conflict-free marriages. No marriages. Yeah.
One final question: are you the head of your wife?
Am I No, I consider myself to be my wife's partner.
Oh, okay.
I believe that we cooperate in living our lives and raising our child.
Is your father the head of your mother?
I don't think they saw themselves that way, but I think that, in fact, that's probably the way my family worked.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate you being on, man.
All right. Thank you.
All right, buddy. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Corinthians 11:3. It's spiritual. God did this, not me. I'm just telling you about it. I'm a witness to it. And I have to tell you, when you love that order and don't hate it, life is good. Life is good. It is not about controlling anyone. It's not about being better than anyone. It's not about being in competition with anyone. It is the spiritual order of God. At one point in life, we knew this in America. And when we knew it, we lived it for the most part, exceptions to the rule, of course. But life was better. Families were tighter. Children grew up better. When we lived, we understood that order. And now there are these people out there who hate God, who hate good, who are the children of Satan, and they're working overtime to change that. And for us who know the truth, to sit back and quietly allow that to happen, we should pay a price for it. I'd rather pay a price standing for truth, for the order of God, than to pay a price for not standing. Which decision will you make today? Are you going to stand for truth, or will you stand back quietly and allow evil to continue to destroy the family and this country?